So all through this space is different offices. Some are production offices, some post-production, a lot of filmmakers, people in different creative industries, and people are kind of nestled in their own worlds around here. My name is Nat Jenks. I'm a colorist for films and episodic TV shows. This is a space that some friends and I set up. It's in an old school building that's been renovated and restored. The filmmakers that I'm working with are under extremely tight deadlines. So anything that I can do to speed up the amount of time that it takes for me to get to the finish line for a project, it's not only about finishing the project quicker, but actually allowing us to have more time to iterate, right? This type of work it's on the one hand very technical, but on the other hand, ultimately it is a creative art form, right? And the way that we absorb it is not by sitting and looking at individual pixels or colors, but is by watching a film and absorbing it. So there's sort of a give and take between those things. And for me, the number of iterations that I can get in to do a pass on a film, watch it, see how it feels, the more quickly that I can work, the more iterations I can get in. A lot of color control surfaces have a design principle where they're a huge control surface with a dedicated button for every function that you would want. What I've found is that actually the exact opposite is very useful, which is that I mostly want to have one hand on either pen or mouse, and then another hand on a set of keys, and basically keep that hand stationary. And that by using a very large number of modifiers and shortcuts, I can map almost everything that I need to a single hand, which means that rather than stopping what I'm doing to move my hands over a very wide surface, I can just keep my eyes on the screen in front of me, keep one hand on a mouse or pen, and the other hand on a macro pad. So it's sort of counterintuitive in that way, because you see these giant control surfaces, which are, they are useful, but they also, there's an element of them which is a little bit theatrical, and that people walk into a room and they're being charged, $500 an hour, and they see this giant piece of equipment that whoa, this must be a big deal. In reality, I think, as is so often the case, less is more. Really the key is to stay in a flow state where you're not stopping to look down at your hands or stop to worry about anything technical, but you can just move quickly. And so for me, having everything mapped to essentially one hand, I do cheat a little bit and have another hand over here just for good measure. I find that that's actually incredibly useful. A coworker of mine was using macro pads, and I was really curious about them. He was using the X keys, which have been around in post-production for, decades maybe. I quickly kind of grew frustrated with those, both the form factor and the interface for programming them. It was really important to me that I find a solution where the customization was actually loaded into the hardware, because I work in all sorts of environments that are not my own. And because of the security in the environments that I work in, it's very challenging to get anything authorized to install additional pieces of software. It's always required that the systems are air-gapped, so meaning they have no connection to the internet at all. So having all the different shortcuts and macros programmed into the actual piece of hardware so I could take it with me, go to a facility, plug it in, and have it work out of the box was key. The multiple color platforms that I use have vastly different keyboard shortcuts, but I can consolidate a lot of the core functions so that they have the same shortcuts, which is super useful. The filmmaker's time is an incredibly valuable resource. Often they're split between multiple tasks. They're working on color, they're working on sound. So anything that can get you there quicker is really a big deal. I work on an incredibly wide range of projects, which is really lucky. Today I'm doing some tests with the photographer Nan Golden, who's a hero of mine, and I did a documentary film called All the Beauty and the Bloodshed that Laura Poitras shot. It won the Venice Film Festival last year, and it's an incredible film to get to work on that type of range of projects where I'm one day, working with a legendary photographer like Nan, and then on another day working on a Star Wars project, sort of from the most big sort of otherworldly thing to the most like real and intimate type projects. It's one of the things that I'm most grateful about with this job is the variety of different projects that I get to work on.